Hello, everyone, and welcome to the GmbH Streamline Supply Chain Planning webinar series. My name is Natalie Lopachak. I'm a certified supply chain expert and vice president of partnership at GmbH Streamline, and I'm absolutely happy to welcome everyone today to our webinar series. I'm really happy to announce the topic for today. It's best practices for demand forecasting and inventory planning in 2022. This is a topic which is really important for all of us, which helps us to make sure that we know how to respond to ongoing supply chain disruptions. And what makes me even much more happy that I have this chance, I have this beautiful opportunity to introduce our speakers, and we have great experts today. So let me introduce our first speaker. This is Alex Kishulko. And what is beautiful about his expertise, he's also a certified supply chain expert professional with more than 10 years experience in the industry. But what is also beautiful, and ladies and gentlemen, I really hope that you will use this opportunity. He has a PhD in mathematical modeling, and you know that science behind supply chain, it's really power. So please make sure that you ask all questions you have. And our second speaker, Keith Drake, also PhD. He is Vice President of Sales in North America. He is also expert in business development and strategic planning expert. So again, if you're talking about business, if you're talking about right decision, if you're talking about right methods, have to make sure that your business is moving forward, developing, working efficiently, as efficient as possible. Please, again, make sure that you use this opportunity communicating with Keith.
Thank you, Natalie, for that introduction. First, let me say I'm very excited to be here today. It's a very relevant topic to the supply chain industry, and I think we're going to have a good program for you today. Briefly about Streamline, we've been providing supply chain planning solutions since 2009. Our footprint is global, with implementation partners and clients throughout the world. Streamline is an AI-based software solution for demand forecasting and inventory planning. Now, out of the box, Streamline provides very accurate demand forecasts and robust inventory replenishment plans based on your historical sales data, your current inventory, orders in transit, etc. But as we're going to visit Streamline briefly several times during our webinar today. And as you'll see, many areas of the Streamline platform can be tailored to meet your specific business model, business conditions, and business needs. So again, I'm excited about the relevant topics today, and especially getting to your questions during the Q&A session. Thanks, Natalie.
My pleasure. Wonderful. Let's move forward in such a case. And today we are going to talk about next questions. So first of all, it's going to be supplier unpredictability. Second, very important, historical data impacted by COVID. So as you know, it's also very important. Not only COVID is impacting data, but this is actually event which happened recently, and we really have to discuss it, how to deal with it, how to overcome. And what also we'll be discussing today is forecasting demand for new products. So market is not the same every day. We are moving forward, and sometimes we need just to understand how to make sure that there is product placement, that we are moving forward with new products. So how is it possible to do using artificial intelligence? So this is actually our most important questions for today, which we're going to discuss.
Supply chain unpredictability is the new normal for sure. I'm sure everybody on this webinar is experiencing some level of risk, some level of unpredictability. I recently read from a World Economic Forum report that senior executives in operations and in supply chain management expect the impact disruption on corporate value to increase by 15 to 25% over the next 5 years. And that only 12% of companies are sufficiently protected against future disruptions in supply chains and operations. Now, in response, Gartner reports that 23% of supply chain leaders are expected to have a digital supply chain ecosystem by 2025, and we certainly hope that Streamline is part of that digital supply chain ecosystem for many of them. Now, each of our three topics today deal with uncertainty and how to squeeze maximum risk out of your supply chain equation in the specific areas of demand forecasting and inventory planning. After we suggest best practices, we'll briefly show how to implement that approach within Streamline with a quick demonstration. So with that, let's get to our first topic, supplier unpredictability. There are multiple sources of unpredictability at every point in the supply chain. We feel, and I'm sure many of you would agree, that among the most frequent and with the highest impact is unpredictability among suppliers, from manufacturers to upstream distributors, any organization supplying inventory to our organization. So we're going to take a look at these issues and then suggest both tactical methods to react to changes to unpredictability and strategic methodology to reduce this risk. So what are some common examples? Common examples of supplier unpredictability: a supplier changes a delivery date. A supplier changes an order quantity, often both. So the tactical best practice, the best way to react, is to change that order status in your upstream ERP, not in your demand forecasting tool, but as high up in the, as far up in the data stream as possible to maintain a single source of truth data. And then in turn, your ERP updates the planning platform, whether that's integral to your ERP or an integrated solution like Streamline. Many planning solutions, such as Streamline, allow changes to lead time, shipment quantities, lead time variants, and other very important ordering delivery parameters. But again, it's best to make these changes at the source. Now let's talk about strategy. The best practice strategically is to synchronize your orders for all your items for each supplier. Let your suppliers understand your supply and ordering requirements. Sure, they work for you, but the easier you can make their job, the less unpredictable they will be. So you see here in the third bullet, become predictable to your suppliers. The implementation, I know many companies are on an as-needed ad hoc min-max ordering strategy. When inventory reaches a certain minimum level, place an order. Our recommendation, our best practice, and I'm going to show you this here in a second in Streamline, is to transition to a periodic ordering strategy. You may be carrying a bit more inventory, but and carrying cost, but the reduction in unpredictability and risk is certainly worth that effort. So by this method, we reduce uncertainty and minimize risk. I'm going to share my screen and go to Streamline. And while I'm doing so, Alex, is there anything that you can add?
Yes, predictability of our orders is something that suppliers often require, but that creates a task for us. And it's hard to be predictable because in our own organizations, we have lots of different flows and constraints. And I'd expect you, Keith, to show us today how this can be improved with a digital solution.
Let's go ahead and do that. Thank you, Alex. Many of you are familiar with Streamline. I'm going to give you the 15-second, 30,000-foot view. Streamline offers integrations with many ERPs, database systems, Excel spreadsheets, or combinations of the above. Very flexible to fit into your business process. Streamline has a very flexible demand forecasting environment, including a very comprehensive product tree, and we'll get into some of these other areas later on in our webinar. Inventory and replenishment planning is very robust as well. A very broad set of reports can be produced by Streamline. And then finally, a KPI dashboard to actually see how well the implementation plan offered by Streamline is performing. To get back to supplier unpredictability, I'm going to pull up this example here. And in this case, our replenishment strategy is min-max. When we reach a certain minimum level, we reorder. Let's look at that reordering plan within Streamline. You can see here, I should have overviewed, in this very simple example, we have 22 SKUs. The replenishment plan for a min-max or ad hoc ordering strategy includes all 22 SKUs. When we reach this reorder point, the ERP will automatically place an order. This could result in as many as 22 separate orders to the 5 suppliers. What we suggest as a better strategy is to move to a periodic ordering strategy. And if we do and look at the same order strategy, and I'll turn on some dates here. Now we've reduced the number of orders to just 8. And you can see if we sort by supplier, this first supplier receives an order on a single date. Each supplier receives orders on a single date. So we've reduced our orders down to 8, just what we need to order now. We've consolidated orders among our suppliers. We've become more predictable to our suppliers. Alex, anything to add before we move on to the second topic?
Strategically, that's a very good method to sync orders across suppliers and to reduce the number of orders that we issue.
Well, thank you. Our second of 3 questions to talk about today is historical data disruptions. Many causes, which I'm sure everyone has experienced. Some are listed here on the left: COVID-19, natural disasters. We experience global trade conflicts that can disrupt our historical data. We can have a stockout during significant demand. Supplier unpredictability, as we just talked about, is another source of historical data disruptions. And what I mean by historical data disruptions is both zero sales for a period when we could have had significant sales, or artificially low sales. So in this case, and again, I will show you this in a second. Let me get, I will get set up here. In this case, the best practice is to revise your demand forecasting strategy within your demand forecasting platform to recognize those specific data points that have been disrupted. This gets to some of the AI under the hood of Streamline, and I'll show you that here in a second. Unlike the previous topic, our recommendation is to not change the source data, for example, in your upstream ERP. The source data, your truth data, hasn't changed, but let's remediate and account for data disruptions in the planning tool. So I will share my screen again and show you how we do that in Streamline. So I'm going to look over at my other screen here. Now we're going to spend just a minute or so in the demand forecasting area. Here's our product tree on the left. And as I expand it to consumer goods, building materials, and then finally nails, you can see here we have 2 periods of 0 sales. Let me briefly comment. What you see in the graphical area is a lot of the information in the sales and operation planning grid at the top. Gray is your actual historical sales. Blue is Streamline's AI-based model fit to that historical data. Red is Streamline's demand forecast moving forward. And green is the predicted inventory, including safety stock. So you can see here we have 2 months, November 2018 and December 2018, of 0 sales. Let's say we know that that's a disruption. It's artificially 0. And you can kind of tell here what those 2 periods of 0 sales has created is somewhat of an artificial upward trend in our historical model and the demand forecast moving forward. So in Streamline, what we will do is ignore the actual sales from these 2 months. And when we do, I think you saw the changes here. It levels out into more constant demand. It's more accurate. What Streamline has done is simply, it's still using all the historical data, but just ignoring these 2 months here. As we scroll here in the grid, we can see those 2 months are currently being ignored. So Alex, anything else to add before we move on to our third topic?
This functionality was developed right after COVID disruption, and it was developed to target issues that arise in a result of COVID disruptions. And we've seen many companies with artificially high sales because of COVID, and not just artificially low sales. So it works the same way for those artificially high sales as well.
And before we move back to the slide deck, I'll comment that what I showed you is a very simple manual example of how a demand forecasting tool should take into account data disruptions. Within Streamline, what I showed you can be applied much more broadly, and it can be automated as well. We don't have time for that. Let's move back to the slide deck.
Yes, while you're doing it, can we also actually answer several questions? So, Alex, this is a question to you. Can Streamline predict price fluctuation?
If someone could predict prices, then he can get rich very easily. No one can predict prices, but we can plan for price changes. And in Streamline, you can plan for price changes in the future and model your revenues.
Oh, thank you so much. One more question. Do you rely strictly on historical data, or are you incorporating econometric data sources?
It's based on historic sales and some additional information like price changes. So we can include price elasticity or maybe existing shortages in the history to recover true demand, but not more.
Mm-hmm. There is one more question regarding red ribbons. So I do believe it's about our projected actually demand, or probably it's pink about our safety stocks. So Keith, when you share your screen next time, please elaborate on it a little bit. So let's move forward.
So our third topic, let's have a little bit of fun here. New product demand forecast. We've got a lot of situations I'm sure everybody is faced with. We're introducing a new product, but we have no historical sales. What do we do then? So I've outlined here on the left some simple use cases. The first is we have a product update. We transition from model 1189 to 1189X. Same product, a few new features. Or product replacements. Same use case for that product, for that item, but we're transitioning from a model 1189X, it's being totally replaced by model 1200. We may be introducing completely new products into the marketplace. I'm going to show you examples of all of these. In this case, the best practice that we recommend is to model demand using historical demand patterns from similar items that provide you with sufficient sales history. I'm going to show you both these examples, how we can grab a historical trend model from a specific SKU or from a product category and apply it to that product category. So while I'm sharing my screen again, Alex, anything to add?
Probably will add that the pink band on top of red line is an illustration of how extra safety stock looks at the top of actual requirement.
And
so that's safety stock.
Thank you so much, Alex. Thank you.
And just to add on to that, Alex, users have control over the safety stock calculation. You can see that the formula changes whether we have a periodic or a min-max replenishment strategy, and you have a lot of control defining it as service level, future demand in terms of time periods, or more conservative, the maximum of both.
And it's important to add that when we calculate safety stock based on service level, we can account for variability of lead time of suppliers, and that allows us to deal with variability of different delivery times. So lead time variance can be an important parameter in the safety stock calculation.
squeezes more risk out of the supply chain equation, right, Alex?
Right.
That's what it's all about, squeezing the risk out. Okay, so estimating demand for a new product. We're going to go back to this item, nails, and also look at concrete blocks. Now, concrete blocks is not nearly as interesting. Let me explain. It's a new product. We have no sales history. Therefore, the default is to predict no future demand, but we know we're going to have demand. We're also going to start out with an inventory of 1,000. Several ways to apply the model, the seasonal and trend model. You can see down here in the lower right, Streamline has applied its AI and determined that for this product, there's a seasonal and trend model. What we can do is we can copy the model for that item to the clipboard and then apply it to, excuse me, any other item. So now we have still 0 historical sales for concrete blocks, but we do have a demand forecast prediction for the future and therefore resulting inventory levels, replenishment plan based on the behavior of nails. Now, as we move on in time with concrete blocks and actual sales, we will update that true historical sales data and the model will refine even more. I want to show you another method that really any demand forecasting tool should provide. I'm going to go to my product nails. I really like this seasonality pattern. And I'm going to save that seasonality pattern. I'll save it as seasonality pattern nails. And I'll estimate we're going to have a level of 10,000 just to prime the pump, something to begin with. Now, when I go to my product with no sales history, and I have just made available seasonality pattern nails. When I select that, we see the same behavior, the same future demand prediction based on 0 sales history, but based on the behavior of nails. We see that here. The relevant point here is this seasonality pattern for nails is now available in this project throughout Streamline. It can be applied to any other product. Let me show you one more example where we have an existing product, a muesli box, a cereal, but we're going to introduce a totally new product line, chocolates. Chocolates, we're going to have a milk chocolate bar pack and a milk chocolate bar. For both, and therefore for the product category, we have no sales history. Let's apply the same approach. Let's go to the model. The assumption here, of course, is that the demand, the seasonal demand and trend for chocolate will be close to cereal. It's a good starting point until the actual sales history starts rolling in. So I'm going to go through the same process. I'm going to save this as seasonality pattern muesli. I'll give it another 10,000 to prime the pump. Now we have saved that seasonality pattern. Instead of applying it to each individual SKU, if we're introducing dozens and dozens of new products, that would be a very tedious process. I can apply this at the category level. So I'll apply this seasonality pattern. And when I do, you see that now for this product category, we have a predicted demand, resulting inventory, and I can drill down to each individual SKU. So the summary here is a demand forecasting and inventory planning tool should have the ability to borrow or copy trends, seasonality trends, or any other type of demand trend from an existing product and apply that to new product in a very user-friendly way.
Actually, while we're moving forward, if you don't mind, let's answer several of questions. So first of all, Alex, can you please help us? What formula are we using for replenishment?
Replenishment is based on our requirements that we will have in the future. So we are looking at the requirements after lead time, and that is modeled based on putting all events on a timeline. So this is not a formula. It's a timeline with all the events that we have in our supply chain, and we call it dynamic simulation. Dynamic simulation has an advantage of being able to incorporate any schedules of shipping, receiving, manufacturing requirements, material requirements. So it's very flexible and allows us to put any types of events on a timeline. And that's certainly a benefit comparing to formulas.
Thank you so much. One more question.
And
Go
I'm
ahead.
sorry, if I could just briefly grab the screen and add to what Alex said. We're familiar with the inventory planning area. If I right click on a SKU, I want to give an illustration of what Alex just explained. For this SKU, this is the inventory planning calculation. Each column is an event in our supply chain. An order is placed, an order is received, demand is fulfilled. And from left to right, we see those events and a number of parameters surrounding that SKU that results in the inventory plan.
Let's move to next question. We have a question about Dynamics Navision and Dynamics GP if we have connectors with those ERP systems. So Alex, this one is for you.
Yes. Simply yes.
Simply yes, we have right now, so we can move forward with it.
And lots of experience with that with both those integrations.
Great experience.
Yes. So okay, let's move forward. I go out of stock for several months, and when I'm back in stock, my customers buy all of them, and they don't order again for a couple of months. This does not show true demand. Can you please tell me how to overcome this? Do we have any advice?
I'm not sure how to deal with this because it's more like about your relationship with customers. And we've seen different businesses. In one case, if you have nothing in stock, you not only lose your sales, but also lose customers. In other cases, we see when demand is postponed, and once the company has stock, they all return and start purchasing. So you need to account for that in your plan as well.
And Streamline can do that. That's a setting within the system that future demand that we know we can't meet because of very long lead time from our suppliers. If that demand will persist, if those customers are willing to wait, we can tell Streamline that, and Streamline will adjust its ordering plan accordingly.
Just instruct the system how to react to your shortages or out of stock situations, and you can plan for that. Maybe you can't avoid some issues, but you can plan for recovery.
That's right.
Thank you so much. One more beautiful question, gentlemen, for both of you to discuss. Please, our attendee is asking us, please discuss about different models which are being used in Streamline.
Well, all different models can be generalized into an approach, which is time series decomposition. And we try to decompose it onto as many different components as we can. And also we try not to create components that do not actually play a role in this item's demand. So it's a trade-off between what you can incorporate into the model and so to say the power of the model to predict, because it depends on how well you generalize rules found in the data. You don't have to create rules that do not work. That reduces forecast accuracy. So it's a trade-off. We try to use the models that prove that they are useful for every particular item.
And I'll add to what Alex just contributed, that the time series decomposition that's employed by Streamline does two things: captures the characteristics of the time series for that SKU so that the proper model can be selected and configured. But it also looks at how far back can we go and still see those characteristics. You might provide Streamline with 10 years worth of data for a particular SKU, 10 years worth of historical sales, but perhaps it's only the last 4 years that are consistent in their characteristics. Streamline will detect that. Streamline will only use the last 4 years. The end result is a more accurate demand forecast for the future.
Thanks for clarification. Thank you so much. Okay, next one. Is it possible to plan finished goods and all the components in Streamline? Also, are the alert mechanism available? So probably Keith, for you.
Yeah, Streamline is able to represent your supply chain flow, whether you're a manufacturer and your inventory is raw materials, intermediate goods, and finished products, all the way to the other end, where you're simply a distributor taking inventory and passing that along to your sales channels. So Streamline, this is probably a topic, Natalie and Alex, for another webinar, best practices for bill of materials and manufacturing planning. But briefly, yes, Streamline has the capability to incorporate bill of materials, and in your product tree, consider raw materials, intermediate goods, and finished products, and optimize that entire process. Yes.
What are we going to do today? Today we had beautiful pieces of advice actually from Keith, from Alex. And just for you not to lose all of this information, all of this insight, we would really recommend to develop strategy for data disruption. What makes sense for you? Please think about it right now. Please think about it during a QA session we will be again discussing, but make sure that first next step, it's your strategy. What is wrong with business workflow right now? And how do you want to see it actually in future, and which steps are the best in order to achieve it? Number two, have a plan to quickly respond to supplier unpredictability. Again, this is actually what we already discussed. Keith kindly shared from his own experience, from our clients' experience, from our partners and experts' experience, what works the best. So please, again, think about it. Does it make sense for you? Maybe you need personal consulting, again, discussing your needs, your requirements, your expectations. In such case, I have very good news for you. You will have a chance actually to book free consulting with our experts. So at the end of webinar, just use this possibility. And next step number 3, again, this is contact us for free consultation, and we will help you to understand how Streamline can benefit your business.
There's been a lot of good questions. You know, the issues that we've been exploring today probably apply to almost everyone. The best practices are general, apply to everyone. But we've had a lot of good questions where we just can't answer in this forum because the answer is very specific to your use case, to your industry, to your vertical, your business problems. So number 3 is where we'd like to take the conversation with you individually, that next step, learn more about the challenges that you're facing and see if we can provide value.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Keith. Thanks actually for commenting on it. Let's move forward. There are still several things actually we would like to announce for you. And we have Paul. And as I already told, we are really interested in your opinion. We constantly try to understand what's happening with this market, just to make sure that we can provide as perfect, actually perfectly shaped service for you as possible. So this poll you can see right now, and there are some questions. What is your greatest supply chain planning challenge? So there are several options. Please choose what really disturbs you most. This is accurate demand forecast. Maybe this is automated replenishment order plans. Maybe this is responding to supplier unpredictability. Maybe this is something actually connected with historical data disruptions, or it's forecasting demand for new products. So as soon as you answer to those questions, actually answer to this poll, we will see the result. And actually, it's also interesting for us to know what's happening. So first one is accurate demand forecast. Okay, this is accuracy. This is accuracy. Alex, would you like actually to comment, because this is problem which most of our attendees are experienced. So if you can comment on it, I think it would be beneficial.
That's a very good illustration of what actually happens in our supply chains. I would call, so the first place goes to accurate demand forecast. It's the biggest issue that everyone has to solve. And the second one is responding to supplier unpredictability. So the first one is impossible to solve, and the second one is almost impossible to solve. And we need to find a way how to adequately react to the level of unpredictability. And I think it's very interesting that these issues go to top of interests of our attendees today. Yeah.
Wonderful, beautiful. Okay, let's move forward. There are several other things we want to announce for you today. As I already mentioned, we really take care about what's happening on the market, and we really try to analyze, and our team is really trying to create useful, efficient content for you. Sometimes webinars, sometimes some other types of meetings, interviews, but also we are trying to create for you beautiful articles. And please just make sure that time to time you go to our Forbes and you read articles like Overcoming Supply Chain Challenges with Artificial Intelligence, what large manufacturers need to know. So this article was written by Alex. Doesn't matter what is the topic, he's using a lot of analytics, math, science behind. So just make sure that you go and benefit from this information. One more topic, which is very important for us this year, because we believe that digital twin, this is actually a solution. Again, Streamline can provide it for you, but we believe that it's a solution which can help supply chain survive disruption. So this article will be available really, really soon, or actually it is already available. So just make sure, again, you also go and just read it and have benefit from it. Okay, let's move forward. Right now, I would love to spend a little bit of time and actually move back to some questions you have, because you have a lot of them. Can Streamline utilize bill of materials data to perform raw materials inventory planning? And simple question is yes. So let's move forward. How would you deal with forecasting items whose history is dependent on other item? For example, we sell clothes with many size and colors variations. When we run out of stock for our best variations, the sales rates drop across the board. So, Alex, can you please answer to this one?
I think the most important part is to be prepared with appropriate inventory levels and safety stock for different sizes and colors. And that's normal. If you run out of one item, you replace it with another item. You just need to be prepared as you need just to have as accurate forecast as possible. But if you run out of one of the variants, that's normal again. But you can do better next time.
Thank you so much. Keith, question for you. What if we have totally new product introduction to the market and we don't have any historical data? How does Streamline can help with this use case? Like what will be the best model to forecast or plan inventory?
Yeah, that's a good question. And we explored that during the webinar today. But just to summarize, the best practice is to determine what existing product or group of products most closely match that new product. You know, this is where, when I commented a minute ago, having an individual conversation with someone would be beneficial to understand the use case a little bit more detail. But in general, you know, all of our companies, all of our organizations are in the same industry. Unless we are transitioning to a totally new industry, we're probably going to have some historical sales data that at least correlates with that new product. So we would just use that, make our best estimate as to the inventory level to begin with. And then as time goes on, and as a result, Streamline will forecast the demand and develop a replenishment plan for that new product. But as time moves on, even with a year's worth of historical sales data, that's valuable information for Streamline to refine that model. If you are transitioning to a totally new industry, and it's a totally new product, and you simply have no historical sales data, then borrow from your competitors, see what information is available publicly, and use that as your baseline historical sales for Streamline. There's always a solution to every challenge, but we'd love to have an individual conversation with you to figure out what solution is best for your challenge.
Thanks. Thank you so much. One more question. Shipping orders, if the container is not full enough, how can it affect the shipment of the container to ensure profitability? So probably, Alex, this one is for you about economic order quantity.
Usually one container is your economic order quantity, and you just need to make sure you top up the container with different items that you need. And in Streamline, it's one of the functions to top up the container size with different items that you will need in the future. And if it's not full after putting, let's say, 30 days of sales into the container, maybe it will be full if you put 35 days of sales with a wider range of SKUs.
Thank you so much. How do you deal with ghost inventory?
Can't provide an answer because I do not get the terminology.
So actually, I do believe that, so we would love to answer this question, but it's a little bit, so I'm not sure that we're on the same page. Can you please explain what do you mean by calling ghost inventory? So if you elaborate, unfortunately, I cannot call the name, it's anonymous attendee. So, but if you can elaborate, what do you mean, what is ghost inventory in your understanding, we will actually try to help you. Okay, one more question. Have you done SKU rationalization with artificial intelligence in Streamline?
No, not covered. Inventory management is not covered in like assortment management is not part of our planning solution.
Okay, and actually just to finish, there is one more question. I'm sure it will be interesting for everyone. How do you calculate demand forecasting accuracy? So what do you use for this?
We recommend mean absolute percentage error and accuracy, which is 100% minus mean absolute percentage accuracy. And that's actually a very good measure, especially if weighted with quantities sold. You can adjust for the size of the product. I mean, for the scale of sales of the product.
And I'll add that both of those accuracy measures that Alex mentioned are easily selected within the settings in Streamline. And there's a number of reports that by SKU, by time, and by time period produce and report on those accuracy measures. So you can see how well this forecast is doing within Streamline in the dashboard that I briefly touched on, or you can export that report with the accuracy measures to a business intelligence platform for further analysis.
Thank you. And let me also add that actually high accuracy of demand forecasting, this is what we are proud of. This is what does really, really well for our clients, our partners' clients. So thanks for asking this question. Okay, wonderful. So thank you so much for coming. Thank you for high evaluation of our efforts. Excellent. This is actually what I really love to see. So talk to you soon. And actually, I hope to see you again.